What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning into the Writer's Room, where we do recaps, reactions, and reviews. Today we are reviewing and recapping the Season 2 Power Book 3 Raised by Kanan premiere. And this episode, we begin with Kanan. If you don't remember from last year, Kanan did go through with the shooting of Detective Howard. However, he was unsuccessful in Detective Howard's demise, and therefore he had to be, transferred over to Virginia to visit some family members until the whole thing cooled off. But it is time for him to come back home. But unlike our pilot, this episode really showed a fray that is going on between the family dynamics, and you can see it in this scene because last year, of course, we seen that Rock and Kanan were very close and there were always endearing moments, but this moment was just very awkward because you can tell that he is still really shooken up by what had happened a couple of months prior to him being there in Virginia. And Rock is carrying on and just letting him know that, hey, it's time to go back to normal. Like, how did you like it here? Oh, it doesn't really matter. Rock is very much dismissive of Kanan's feelings, or maybe she's just not actually aware. And so we'll see that as it goes through the next couple of scenes. And then he goes back into the house and he's just getting prepared to go back home to New York. And we see that he has cousins and these family members that he's really built up this relationship with. And an auntie, I believe her name is Auntie Deborah. And she's just talking to Rock about, Rock's childhood crush. And Rock is going through the motions. And basically Auntie Deb is like, look, something happened with Kanan and he was really shaken up, and I think he's really enjoying himself here. This could be a good time for him to come out here. You guys, you and your mom were supposed to come out here, when that thing happened. But before we are told what that event was that happened, Kanan did walk in the room. And they discontinued the entire conversation as a whole, and which is a good thing because you can tell that things were starting to heat up in the kitchen because Rock, at the end of the day, is loving. She's obsessed with Kanan and obsessed with Kanan's position in this game. And she doesn't want anyone coming in between that, trying to get him to, I guess, get things back together, get his act straight. She doesn't want to be told how to mother her child, which is completely understandable. But Auntie Deb just hugs Kanan and lets him know that he is welcome there at any time. Next, we transition over to Detective Bucko, aka Detective Howard. He is just going off on this nurse, talking about someone has stolen a possession of his and he wants it back. And she's like, look, nobody stole anything. It would only be me. I was the only one that came in here. But he is actively looking for something. And when he comes out, before he actually is wheeled out by the nurse, we have his partner, Detective Burke. She's talking to the doctors and she's trying to figure out who shot him because he's acting like he doesn't remember. And the doctor is telling her this is 100% normal. This is a miraculous recovery. Just 3 months ago, Detective Howard was dying and needing a bone marrow transplant from someone. And now he is alive and well, which is more than what we could say had he been shot successfully. Now, you can tell that Detective Burke, his partner, is really a little sketched out about this whole situation. She just wants to solve the crime and find out who tried to, off Detective Howard. But he comes out and they have the whole department out there. Of course, when Blue gets shot, one of Blue gets hurt, everyone comes in full swing and in support. And Detective Howard, at this point, I'm still unsure if he remembers anything or if he is just trying to pretend so that he can get closer to Kanan without anybody knowing because he wants Kanan for himself. Next, we transition over to Lou, who is very much still in a relationship with Jessica. They are talking about Famous's. Remember, she is Famous's sister, and they're talking about his career and why he has not popped off yet. And Lou is basically like, we threw it out there, it didn't stick. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. And basically, Jessica is trying to get her brother on. I can't blame her. You're trying to put your brother on. I mean, you are kind of with the man in charge, or so she thought. And so he makes it known that I'm not giving Famous any more beats because he needs to put the work in. Like, one song ain't gonna cut it. It was cute on the streets, but we need more work. And he has to write first before I give him any more beats. Of course, this does not work for Jessica. She wants the best for her little brother. And I think she does like Lou. And this kind of does put some type of strain on their relationship because Lou really, really likes Jessica. And it's clear that she is not paying any attention to him as far as the relationship goes and only cares about Famous's career. And so he jets off. But while he's driving, he stopped at a red light and hears a Latina next to him serving vocals. And she's rapping and singing to his beat. So he goes in front of her. He tries to get her attention like, hey, ma, like she's not answering. And so when the light turns green and they pull off, he does end up skirting in front of her and she is upset. She's up and armed, which I do not blame her because this is New York. You don't know what's about to happen. And he basically introduces himself and says, that's my beat that you're singing to and I think you sound pretty dope. So here's my card. I want to give you a chance at recording on my record label. And you know, she's acting hard, but I know that she really does want to sing and that she's interested in what he has to offer. So we briefly transition over to Jukebox. It seems as though she has written another song and recorded it called It Hurts So Much. And she is at the gravesite of Nicole, which we know Nicole was her girlfriend last year who Kanan infamously gave that blue bottle pill to, or shall I say she stole it from Jukebox backpack. Nonetheless, we're going to scratch that. Nicole is not here anymore and Jukebox is just going through the motions. And you can tell that it's really starting to take a toll on her. She looks bad this season. I won't lie. Like Haley Kilgore is amazingly beautiful and talented. But yeah, they really did the bomb with just showing the ups and downs of what it's like to be in a grieving period, especially when Kanan was gone this entire time. Next, we go back to Rock and Kanan driving in the car on their way back to New York. And Rock is having a conversation with Kanan. Kanan is still stressed out about what happened to Detective Howard. And Rock is just reassuring him that nothing is going to happen to you. I'm going to keep you safe, Kanan, because I'm your mother. Like, we handled the situation while you were gone. Detective Howard is awake now, but he is not talking because he does not remember. Word around town is he doesn't remember crap about what happened that night, let alone remember what you are into his investigation prior to that night. But of course, you know, Kanan is not buying it. Kanan's wheels are really starting to turn in his head, and this might be the beginning of the downfall of their relationship. Now we touch briefly on Marvin, going back to what happened with Tony when she snitched on him. And he's talking to his lawyer, and his lawyer is like, look, I got you out of this. They basically can't find anything. And, you know, of course, he's bad-mouthing Tony. But the lawyer tells him, in order for you to stay out of jail, you are going to have to do some type of program. Either you're going to have to do probation, you're going to have to go to anger management classes. And he chooses the latter. He chooses to go to anger management classes. And, of course, the lawyer tells him, all you have to do is just sign in, make sure your name is on the paper, and you can bounce. But of course, later on in the episode, we see it is not that easy. Meanwhile, we have Detective Burke bringing Detective Howard back to his place of residence, and there's a bunch of mail everywhere. I mean, the man hasn't been home in 3 months. So yes, things have built up. It is dusty in his house, but he is not eager to get back to the workforce, nor is he eager to go through his mail and everything else. And Detective Burke is like, let's get on it. You know, she does look at his desk when she goes to open up his blinds and sees that there is a profile for Kanan Stark on there. Her wheels are turning because she has not stopped. She's been fighting relentlessly, trying to find out who shot Detective Howard. It may be this guy, because Detective Howard is acting like he doesn't remember that night. So I'm going to look into this myself. And she keeps badgering him about this. And he's like, look, I almost died. I almost lost my life that night. I don't remember anything. Now, honestly, in this scene, it was really sketchy because I believe that Detective Howard does remember certain things about that night. And if he doesn't remember certain things, I think he has a pretty good idea that Rock had something to do with it. So he waits for Detective Burke to leave so that he can go full on detective spy mode and find out what really happened to him on that night. Now we come back to Rock and Kanan. They're in the car, of course. They're back in the city, and we see that the police are beating down the block. The block is hot, okay? We see Kanan is in the car. He is still shaken up, and Rock is telling him that corner stuff doesn't matter anymore. They are on to the next big thing, and the next big thing we're about to see right now. Rock has her own, I guess this is like the first beginning of a trap house type of deal going on in the projects, where she brings Kanan, and he sees exactly what's been going on since he's been gone. And Rock has pretty much taken over the whole territory. She says that there is nobody there. She's in competition with who? Herself. But she's basically like, we ended up going here because we can see the cops, as she has men up on top of the buildings, but they cannot see us. And as they go inside the building, Kanan realizes that the people that reside in that building are afraid of Rock. I mean, she has everyone shook up. They're not looking her in the eye, let alone looking Kanan in his eye. I mean, as you can see, they're looking her in the back, but they will not touch Rock at all. They're not even interested in going on the same elevator as Rock. They have that much respect for her. And when she pulls up to her level, we see that there are two guys greeting her at the door, and they're getting ready. You know, all they see is Kanan at first, and they're getting ready to slide on him and realize, oh, that's Rock. Let's go ahead, like, clear the way. Everybody clear the way. And I'm not gonna lie, you guys, I'm looking just as crazy as Kanan is in this moment, because I don't recognize this woman at all. This is not the Rock that we met on the pilot. I mean, of course, she was a queen pin, but she was nothing like this. I mean, this is ruthless. We have pregnant women on this floor high. We have people that look like they were getting off of work high. Like they are stuck in this time loop, this time zone of just being high all the time and continuously going back to their supply. And who is their supplier? Rock. And she's just like, come on, boo, like, let's go. Like, let me show you what's going on and how we're getting to this point. But I am that girl. So Rock is very scary in this moment, and Kanan sees that this is not the same mom that he once knew. And once they get inside, he basically just meets up with Marvin and Scrap. And we see that Scrap is doing well. Marvin is doing well. It seems as though Marvin, that talk that him and Rock had last season, really helped out with their relationship and their relationship dynamics, especially when it comes to this work, because we know that Marvin was an F up last year. But it seems as though he is really on the right track, and he's excited to see Kanan. We briefly go into Unique's situation, and he is still in jail as at this point. Of course, they don't have anything on Unique. As we learned earlier, Unique did not commit this crime, and he has alibi. So he is about to get out. So Unique right now is trying to stay out of trouble, and he's just talking to the CEO and basically is like, look, I'm going to be out of here in just a minute. You just wait and see. So, of course, Unique is about to be out on the streets and back rocking with it. Meanwhile, back with Jukebox at the house, we see that she's just going through, picking out clothing and everything, but she sees an old photo book, and she's just looking through all of these photos, family photos, and she comes across a picture that says Laverne and Kenyon, 1975. And it is her mother. Of course, we all know that LaToya Luckett is going to be playing her mother, which is perfect because LaToya Luckett can sing and Haley Kilgore, aka Jukebox, can sing. So it just matched up really perfectly. I love the casting of this. But we see that she is, a light bulb is starting to come on, and that maybe her mom can be of some assistance with lifting Jukebox's spirit, because it's been completely broken since Nicole departed from us last season. And we see Kanan back at the trap house, where he's just trying to observe and see what is going on and how is this money being moved? How is mom pushing so much dope around this community? And we see that there are different ways. People are hiding it within the cabinets. There's counting money inside. Of course, they're never going outside those walls, the people that are coming there to get their supplies. So it's all on the hush hush. The police never finds out. And so we do know that Rock has paid everyone within the building to keep quiet so that she can move all of her product. And everyone is simply afraid of her. And of course, she's holding a meeting with Marvin and Scrap. And guess who decides to show up at the last minute? Lou comes in, he dabs up Kanan and tries to rush over to this meeting that he really didn't want to go to anyways. And he's making it known. I mean, Lou has his head up to, the edge right now. He has a lot on his plate. He's trying to manage this record label, trying to manage a relationship with Jessica, who clearly doesn't want him, and also trying to manage this organization that Rock is forcing him to commit to because they're family. And so they're going through hardships, and Rock is basically cracking down on everyone, saying that they are cracking down on everyone on the corners. So you know what that means, right? That means they're coming to us next, and we have to be ready. We can't do nothing. And she goes to Scrap and lets him know all of that Wednesday night playing gamble with your mom and everything, you cannot do anymore. And we're told over narration that Scrap has a gambling problem. Scrap gambles with everything, and he once shysted Marvin out of $50 because he said that there were 50 fries within a French fry box, and it turned out to be 50 fries. And so of course Marvin lost that, but it was all to illustrate the fact that Scrap has a problem, and he's more than likely not going to listen when Rock said don't go to the gambling on Wednesdays at your mom's house. And she's basically letting Lou know, hey, you need to start getting to it because Marvin is picking up your slack. I don't care what you got going, but this needs to be first priority. We transition back over to Jukebox, who of course is still writing and humming and singing, and Kanan comes in and they basically just chop it up, and he just states how much he enjoyed being out there in Virginia and he wondered what he missed out here. And basically she's like, look, I wanted to go out there, but it's all good. Like, I needed to stay out here, and honestly I don't even know if out here was good for me either. And I think she's just building up this resentment against Kanan, and you can see the separation between those two. So I'm interested to see their dynamic and how it's going to end by the end of the season. Once we dive back into Detective Howard, we realize that Detective Howard might actually be telling the truth about not remembering what happened to him that night or who shot him, because he stares at the folder of Kanan Stark and he's starting to remember everything as far as the last person that he was trying to connect these drugs to was Kanan. Now, my big question is, does Detective Howard remember that Kanan Stark is his son? Or does he just think that, okay, Kanan and Rock definitely has something to do with what happened to me that night, and I'm going to find out because why would I have this on my desk? So he's definitely going to look into that more. Next, we have the crew, Marvin, Lou, and Kanan sitting down. They're just getting ready for dinner. And of course, Rock is cooking up some good fish. And Marvin and Lou are just doing what they do best as brothers, just, nagging on each other. And we see that Kanan starts laughing, and Marvin makes it known that, hold up, what are you laughing for? I heard that you got stung by a jellyfish and was crying like a baby up in Virginia. And you can turn around and look at Rock's face, and she is just smiling from ear to ear. She's happy to have Kanan back, but she's kind of obsessing over babying him for some reason. So she thinks this is a cute thing when really it's a sign that Kanan is a kid still. He's crying because of a jellyfish, let alone, upset about and shaken up about what has happened already in New York. However, the whole conversation is halted when Marvin catches eye with Jukebox. Now, we all remember the infamous line last season, what, you a Lebanese or something? Jukebox is still pissed off at him, which is rightfully so, because he choked the mess out of her. And so they haven't gotten their relationship mended yet. And you can see that Marvin is trying hard to get a hold of Jukebox, but Jukebox is ignoring him at every turn. And she just goes on to talk to Rock because it seems as though she's been living with Rock. So this is nothing new for Marvin, but he is trying to mend his relationship with his daughter. They are having a family dinner, And remember, this was always the safe haven for the family and just a safe space for everyone to talk about how they feel as far as last season was concerned. But today, that was not the case. You can cut the tension with a knife. Lou is upset at Rock. Rock is really ragging on Lou. And of course, Marvin is trying to get back with Jukebox. It's just a full strain, and you can feel it at this family dinner. But Rock just makes it known to Kanan that we have not been having these family dinners because you have not been here, and we want to carry on the tradition of being with each other because family is everything to Rock. Now, we slowly get back to Fame and his sister Jessica, and we realize that Fame knows what Jessica's plot is, and we knew it from season 1. Jessica was not feeling Lou. Definitely not to the extent that Lou was feeling Jessica. And Jessica in this moment is trying to fight, I guess, with Fame, just on working hard. And look, Lou is not going to hand you these beats on a platter. You need to work at it. And Fame basically calls her out on her stuff like, I thought you were sleeping with him for a reason. Like, you need to make this stuff happen. And Jessica realizes that, okay, Fame is right. My number one priority at the end of the day is getting his career off the ground. So I've got to do what I got to do. Meanwhile, back at the house, we have Kanan, Marvin, and Jukebox. They're all sitting, and this is after the dinner. And we see that Marvin is still trying to talk to Jukebox as much as possible. He's asking her about school. Sir, school has not even started. You can tell that he is like a deer in headlights when it comes to speaking with his daughter, especially since, what went down had already happened. And so Jukebox is not here for it, and she just proceeds to walk away. And of course, Kanan, in Kanan fashion, tries to make a joke out of it. There's nothing funny about this relationship. But we move along. And we have Lou going into the kitchen to speak with Rock about the organization. And he's really just trying to get his sister's blessing because, of course, she is that girl. She's the queen pin. And she basically crushes him down about the label because he's drowning. He's not making any money with the label. And she tells him, this is a hobby. If it's not making money, it ain't making sense. You need to quit this and get back to what's real, and that's this organization. And meanwhile, we have Kanan and Jukebox outside, and you can see the relationship between them become a little strained because he's been missing this whole time, living his best life. Meanwhile, Jukebox is still silently suffering. She is still grieving the death of Nicole, as well as Kanan has not been there. He's been gone and he's been enjoying himself, and she has not had anyone there. She has not had a Rock. Of course, she's gotten into it with her dad, and I don't think she told anyone about this except for Rock. So you can see that she is really going through it, and she's not talking to Kanan like, sugarcoating anything anymore. Basically letting him know that, oh, you thinking now? I know things are about to get effed up because every time you think, something goes wrong, and that means for me too. So you can tell that this relationship is going to be completely severed by the end of this season. And Fame comes in and interrupts, and he's lit because he's just excited to have his best friend Kanan back, and he wants to start making moves again. And who do we see peeping in the corner, lurking? It is Detective Howard. Detective Howard is showing interest in Kanan again. And Kanan is looking like, oh my God, my mom said that, everything was good. He doesn't remember anything, but clearly he's, peeping us again. Now, mind you, I still don't believe that he knows or remembers that Kanan shot him, but clearly he believes that Kanan or Rock has something to do with this shooting. Otherwise, he would not be here looking at Kanan on his porch right now. We cut and transition back to Rock, Marvin, and Lou. They're still at the dinner table, and they're just discussing business per usual. And we see that Rock is letting them know that we are going to start cracking down on everything. And not only that, Unique will be getting out soon. So we need to make sure that he is completely against the wall. He has no workers, nobody to help him out. So we're going to enlist Unique's crew. And Marvin and Lou are like, hold up. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we giving them jobs? They tried to kill us at one point. And Rock is basically saying it's best to keep your enemies close, And so she's saying she wanted to say this and bring them in without Scrap being there because she doesn't want Scrap to feel away, because it seems as though they're going to put Unique's crew in a position over Scrap. And we know that this is going to cause some problems and some friction later on. Meanwhile, let's cut to Scrap. Scrap, of course, earlier was told by Rock to stop doing the gambling at his mother's crib. And did Scrap listen? No, my man has a gambling problem. Not only that, he's still missing an eye and everything. Like, it's just not a good look for him to be down here after all of the turmoil that has been happening the past 3 months. And so it's clear to see that someone tipped the police off about Scrap being there, and they're just trying to get close enough to the organization so that they can bring them in and keep eye on them. And so, yes, Scrap ends up getting busted by the police at the gambling session, along with his aunt, or I believe that was his mom. Nonetheless, we move along and we see that Detective Burke is not letting the shooting of Detective Howard go away. She is still looking through the profile and still looking through the investigation. And Detective Howard comes back to the precinct and basically just lets everyone know that he's excited to come back. He's bored at home. And the chief of police comes out and lets him know that we have a strong lead. We are questioning someone, so you're going to need to get in here. Now, when he sees this, Detective Howard sees this, he realizes that this is Scrap. This is someone that is in Rock's crew. I knew I was right. Let me go. Like, you can tell that he's starting to have some more wheels turning in his head, and he already had an idea that Rock's crew had something to do with his shooting. Now, when he goes back to Detective Burke, he just wants to talk to his partner, and, they're cackling, making jokes, but then he looks on the desk and he sees, hey, that's my investigation about my shooting. What are you doing with that? And she's trying to make light of it, like, homicide is having an overload of paperwork to do, so I'm just helping them out and I'm looking into it myself. And of course, she is doing this without the consent and knowledge of the chief of police or anyone else within the precinct, including Detective Howard. Now, he knows that because of her tenacity with solving this case, that he's going to have to solve this. Now, when this happened, this let me know that Detective Howard not only remembers that Kanan is his son, but he's trying to protect him in a way or figure out exactly why Kanan shot him, if he did shoot him. So we're going to have to see how this builds up throughout the season. Now, we cut briefly over to Unique, and we see that there's a fight that's about to go on in jail because someone is about to be assaulted. And because this fight breaks out, someone runs into Unique, and basically they get into a squabble, and Unique is like, don't play with me. Unique shuts it down and beats everyone's ass. Now, because of this, he does gain the trust of another inmate, and of course that is the inmate that was about to be assaulted, and he does let the CO know that Unique had nothing to do with it. They fought him. I seen it. They were jumping him. And so Unique does get out of that situation scot-free. The next day we have Kanan, Rock, and of course Symphony. They're out for lunch, and we see that Symphony and Rock are still on a little bit of rocky terms with each other as far as their relationship because of his care for Kanan and him just wanting Kanan to get a better life, because he drove Kanan to Virginia that night. He knows that Kanan was really shaken up about the whole experience. He doesn't know too much about what happened, but he does know that something happened, something transpired that really made Kanan freak out. And when he tells Rock this, Rock is like, no, that's not true. I know my son. But Symphony just reminds her that Kanan is a growing boy. He is getting older, and you don't know him like you think you do. Now, Symphony is not dumb. He understands that by him telling Rock this, she is going to basically send him on the outs. He will be on the outs again with Kanan and her. I already know what's up. I know you don't play about your son, and I just told you something about your son, which may or may not infer something about your mothering. So yeah, he understands this, and Kanan is still lost as to what just happened, and he thinks that he's going to see Symphony sometime soon. But I guarantee you, we will not be seeing Symphony or anything to do with him and Rock for the next couple of episodes. Yeah, we have Lou, Jessica, and Fame, and Lou is telling Fame exactly what Jessica has already told him. You need to start working hard. We need you to start writing. We need to show that you are a real professional, that you are a professional rapper. And of course, Crown, Jessica hypes up the room, and Crown is like, yeah, we could have done a little better with the marketing. Basically, he's been trying to get at Jessica this whole time. So you can already see where this is going. But we see that the woman woman that Lou had introduced himself to earlier in the episode, the woman that was singing in the car, finally decided to come into the studio, which we all know she would. She was just playing hard to get, but secretly she wanted to be a singer. So we see that there might be a relationship brewing between her and Lou. Meanwhile, we see Jessica and Crown over in the corner making googly eyes at each other. So we knew exactly what was building up with their relationship. The next scene we get into briefly is Marvin going over to his anger management classes, and he is doing what he was told by the lawyer, which is sign up and leave. But of course, the gorgeous doctor that's overseeing the class is like, no, there will be no leaving here. You're going to stay for the duration of the class. And so Marvin is a little taken aback, but I do kind of see something brewing. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think that Marvin is going to find his way back, to reality, to his innocence by falling in love with this woman? I know I'm jumping ahead. I know that, but that's just what I sense. So next we go on to Lou. We see him in the studio and we see that he is up to no good. He has his Ja Rule face going on right now because he's obsessing over this woman and her voice. And I'm not sure if he's more so obsessing over the full overall package, which is she looks the part and she sounds the part. But when Jukebox comes into the studio, she realizes that Lou is still stringing her along because remember last season, he kept telling Jukebox that your time is coming. I am going to put you into the studio. Of course, I got you. You're my niece. I love you. But we see that this takes a toll on Jukebox, and I think this may be her last straw, you guys. The music was the only thing that was keeping Jukebox contained. The Jukebox that we've come to know in the original Power, music was the only thing to save her. But we all know how that story turned out, so we see that this is starting to really heat up. Nonetheless, we carry on to the next scene, which is Jessica and Crown. And we knew this was coming, or at least I knew this was coming. We all seen Jessica was trying her best to get Lou to put Fame in the studio, and it just wasn't working. So she's finding another way into it, and it is through Crown. So we'll see if this is going to work and if Fame is going to get more studio time. But remember, it's not about the studio time. It's about the people, the fans. Do they want to hear what Fame has to say? Back at the house, we have Kanan in his room, and Rock comes in and brings him milk. Now, this really just put a nail in their relationship for me because I see that Rock is really manipulating Kanan into becoming this monster that she has become. And not only that, she's babying him. So it's really like he's struggling between being her son and being this monster that she wants him to become. And you can see that he's confused by it all and doesn't know what to believe. But that is his mother after all. So she just wants to make sure that he feels safe and comfortable in her protection and in her safety net that she's created around him. He's starting to understand that everything that she's been doing, everything that she's been putting herself through is because of him. That is what she's manipulating him to think, when all in all, she is doing this for the selfishness of herself. Nonetheless, we carry on to the next scene and we see that Unique has been released from prison, but we see that Marvin is keeping an eye out on him because they want to make sure that Unique has nothing to run to, that he is sucked dry. So we'll see how this does complete this story by the end of this season. Now, what do you guys think about this episode? It was a lot that was going on in here, just reintroducing everything, opening up those old wounds again, because of course, Kanan is back from Virginia and a lot of things have changed. I think Rock is going into a place of destruction when it comes to her son and the relationship with her brothers, and I honestly don't think that this relationship is going to be mended by the end of this season. Now, guaranteed they do have other seasons to come, so I don't know how they're going to fix it later on, but I do know that this is not going to work out in Rock's favor. What do you guys think? Don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe. Hit me down in the comments. If you want to argue about something that I, said, go ahead and argue with me because this is my show, you guys. So I'm ready to see how this season turns out, and I'll just talk to you guys on the next episode of Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, and I'll talk to you next time on The Writer's Room.